privates. The 30th Vice President of the United States, Charles Dawes, also went, rising from major to brigadier general in the supply service. Hugo Black served in the 7th Division's field artillery, before returning to a career in the Senate and a seat on the U.S. Supreme Court. 34-year-old Captain Harry S. Truman, commanding a battery of field artillery in the Missouri National Guard, fought bravely in the Meuse-Argonne. Everett Dirksen, the Illinois senator known for saying, "A billion here, a billion there, pretty soon you're talking real money," flew observation balloons over the Western Front. Wild Bill Donovan was wounded 3 times in the war, then went on to found the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, forerunner of the CIA, during World War II. New Yorker Fiorello LaGuardia left a safe seat in Congress to become a major in the U.S. Army Air Service in France and Italy. Frank Knox, who'd be Alf Landon's running mate in 1936 and Secretary of the Navy under FDR, fought in France with the field artillery. Teddy Roosevelt's Secretary of State, Robert Bacon, served as chief of the American military mission at British headquarters on the Western Front. New York City's 38-year-old progressive Republican boy mayor, John Perroy Mitchell, lost his re-election bid to the Tammany machine in 1917, joined the Air Service, went up on a training flight, fell from the cockpit, and plummeted 500 feet to his death in a Louisiana swamp. Sam Ervin, who chaired the Senate Watergate hearings in 1973, fought in the 1st Division, the storied Big Red one, and, like Ted Roosevelt Jr. and thousands of other Americans, was wounded at Soissons in July 1918. Among the career soldiers, Dwight Eisenhower and Omar Bradley didn't make it to France, but most of the greats of World War II did, including George C. Marshall, George Patton, Douglas MacArthur, and Mark Clark. James Van Fleet, who would lead the assault on Utah Beach in 1944 and command UN forces in Korea, was a captain commanding a machine gun battalion in the 6th Division during the Battle of the Meuse-Argonne. Terry de la Mesa Allen and Clarence Hubner, who would overlap as 1st Division commanders in World War II, overlapped on the crowded roads of the Saint-Mihiel salient in 1918. Allen was shot in the face there. Hubner was the most rapidly promoted 2nd lieutenant in 1918, rising to the rank of lieutenant colonel in a few months for conspicuous bravery and effective leadership. Courtney Hodges, whose First Army would bear the brunt of the German attacks at the Battle of the Bulge, commanded an infantry battalion in the 5th Division in 1918. U.S. air power in the war suffered from infighting between its chief proponents, Billy Mitchell and Benjamin Foulois. They both served in France, usually at each other's throat. A young lieutenant named Jimmy Doolittle served on their tumultuous staff. Captain Carl Toohey Spots, who would command U.S. strategic air forces in Europe in World War II, ran the Army's flying school in World War I. Lieutenant Lemuel Shepard, who would command the 6th Marine Division at Okinawa, was wounded 3 times in World War I, twice in Belleau Wood and once in the Meuse-Argonne. John Lejeune, the Marine's Marine, was his commanding officer. Troy Middleton, who would famously hold Bastogne against the Germans in 1945, fought with such distinction with the 4th Division at Château-Thierry and the Meuse-Argonne that he became the youngest colonel in the American Expeditionary Forces at the age of 29. Major Leslie McNair, who would be killed by friendly fire in July 1944 after organizing a U.S. Army of 90 divisions, proved so indispensable in 1918 that he became the Army's youngest general at the age of 35. Both Walter Short and Husband Kimmel, the general and admiral who would be overwhelmed by the Japanese sneak attack at Pearl Harbor in 1941, participated in World War I. Short commanding the U.S. Army's machine gun school at Chaumont, and Kimmel serving aboard the USS New York with the British Grand Fleet at Scapa Flow. Jonathan Wainwright, who would surrender the Philippines to the Japanese in 1941, was a staff officer with the 82nd Division in 1918, helping to locate the lost battalion in the Argonne Forest. Walter Beadle Smith, who would be Eisenhower's chief of staff in World War II, was wounded leading a platoon of the 4th Division during the Second Battle of the Marne. Future admirals, like Kimmel, also cut their teeth in the war. William Bull Hall